In the last video, we talked about the hack for multiplying times 5, but we did that when all of the numbers were nice and even. But what if they are odd? What if we have an odd number times a 5? How do we do that? So we would need to know how to do division by 2, but we also need to know how to work with mixed numbers because the same kind of trick works. We just have to make a slight adjustment to it. So one of the last examples we did 24 times 5, and I said you can do half of the 24 to get 12, and you add a 0 to it. And we showed how all that works. But what if you have something like 17 times 5? Well, here's the thing. 17 times 5 gets kind of murky because 17 is not even, and we can't easily divide that by 2 unless we start thinking about decimals or mixed numbers. So think about 17 over 2, and you can look at that one of two ways. 2 goes in there 8.5 times, but you can also see that as 8.5. The 8 and the 5 are part of our answer. In fact, that is our answer. The answer here would just be 85. So how does that work? Well, again, that goes back to how I was explaining the trick in the last video. Now, at first I said we do 17 times 5, and I said divide by 2, all right? So if I divide by 2, and I also multiply by 2, that's not going to change the end result, because if I multiply by 2 and divide by 2, these are inverse operations, so introducing 1 and doing its inverse doesn't change the overall end result. But what it does is that it provides numbers for us to help us manipulate. So over here is a 10, right? But you have this 17 over 2. So we know that we can rewrite this as 17 over 2 times 10. And I said multiplying times 10 is great because you just add a 0 at the end of the number. Well, that's if you're dealing with an integer, right? But what if it's a decimal? Because we saw that 17 over 2 is 8.5, but multiplying times 10, we can't just really add a 0, but what we're doing is we're scooting the decimal over. So that means this decimal kicks over, and it turns it into 85. So that's how the trick is working, and that's how it connects back with the last video. So let's look at 23, right? So what about 23? Well, what's half of 23? Well, if you kind of go up to the side, I'm going to clean up some of this over here because this is just kind of in the way right now. All right. So if I do 23 over 2, 2 goes into 23 11.5 times. So think about that 1/2. That's going to be the 0.5. So it goes in 11 whole times. There's that 0.5. But because we're scooting the decimal, there's not going to be a decimal because it would have started here and you would have moved it right there to make that 115. So I'm just going to go erase that, and our answer is just 115. What about 75 times 5? Well, let's think about that. 75 divided by 2. And again, to do this math hack, you need to be able to divide by 2 very easily. So half of 75, well, let's go down and look at 74, right? Half of 74 is 37, so it's 37.5. So can you guess what that number is going to be? There's your 3, there's your 7, and that 1/2 is going to give you the 5. It would have been 37.5 if I do dividing by 2, but because we end up multiplying times 10 because of the work I showed you before, it's 375. Let's do 31 times 5. So off to the side, I'm thinking half of 31, and so 2 goes into 31 15.5 times. How does that work? That's 155, 155 times. Not 155 times, but 31 times 5 is 155. And 49 times 5, again, go off to the side. Half of 49. See, 49 is just 1 above 48. Half of 48 is 24, so 24.5. 24, and then we add on the 5 there. So, again, to me, it's a kind of a fairly simple thing when you do this over and over and over again. Here's something else that might help you. All right, so we showed you how it works. You see we have all these mixed numbers and the 1/2s and all that stuff, right? But pretend that we're talking about money, right? If I look at this and I say I have 31 nickels, which is essentially you saying 31 times 5 to get the total value of your nickels, 31 nickels. Well, here's how I think about this. I want to split this up into having 30 nickels plus one more nickel, right? And then I start thinking about, well, how many dimes is that? How much money is that? So 30 nickels is 15 dimes plus this one nickel, right? How much is 15 dimes? 15 dimes is $1.50 plus your nickel. And so altogether that gives you the $1.55, or kind of put it in connection with what we have here in this problem, 155. So I find that for a lot of these math tricks and things I do in my head, it helps me to connect it to something that I'm familiar with or something that I enjoy. So playing around with money is always kind of fun. Not that I always have money, but if you play around with your grandpa's old penny jar, you sort things and you play around and you figure out a nice way of adding up all the money. Right? Anyway, hope you enjoy this video. If you do, like it, share it, do all the things that the cool kids do on YouTube, TikTok, Vine, and all the other jazz. So until next time, have a good one.